I asked Tom earlier about you in your second year as a coordinator, and how different things might be, and especially with Deland here in regards to the running game and such. Can you tell me a little bit about what it might have been that you learned the most about yourself and what you were doing as a coordinator in your first year, and what you would be looking for the most this year in regards to improvements or changes?
Yeah, I think we could be here a long time talking about the things that I feel like I could do better. I think the thing that you reflect on, you have to make decisions based on the circumstances, and last year was certainly unique to that. The time allotted to practice and prepare for the season, you had to make decisions on, the volume of scheme that you were going to incorporate within your offense. I still think there's always the fine line. That's always the balance you're looking for as a coach, is what's too much that the players can't execute at a high level, but if you don't do enough, then sometimes you could be predictable. So relative to the run game, you just want to make sure that you give the players answers to issues that arise throughout the year, whether it be matchups or schematics. So I think you just reflect on that, and there's only so many plays in football, but you want to make sure that the plays that you do run complement one another, that they give you answers to issues that you're going to face throughout the year. So I would say probably that's when you reflect back on the year relative to the running game, things that we could improve on, is just making sure that we put our players in the best position to be successful relative to whatever you're facing week to week. So, you go through a long season, you're going to face different types of defenses, different fronts, different coverages, pressures. You just want to make sure you got enough for the players so that they can be in advantageous positions. So that was just collectively as a staff. And, there's only so many plays in football. Our staff is super experienced, knowledgeable, and has had experience in a lot of the different schemes that people will be running across the country. It's just a matter of picking the ones that you feel like are best for your players and making sure you practice them and get them ready to execute on game day.
Zach and then Jim.
I think we probably ask you this at times, but kind of to follow up on that, I mean, just how much more volume can you do essentially? How much did you kind of have to cut out of the playbook last season just because you knew to do it right and to get guys really prepared, you weren't going to have as much time?
Yeah, I would say our playbook was definitely, I wouldn't say limited, but modified, relative to the volume because of the time to prepare for the practice. I think we were, and many of you all were in similar situations, you were day-to-day relative to what the schedule was going to look like relative to practice, preparation, meetings. So you were trying to adjust the best you can. There was no spring practice, summer player-ran practices. None of those things occurred. So we definitely modified. We tried to make decisions to say, hey, listen, if these three players aren't available for the game, you can plug in whoever you want, and they're going to know the base fundamentals of the scheme. So I would say that the scheme and the volume was modified. It doesn't mean that you're going to be, a grab bag offense that just runs every play once or twice a game. You still have to have things that you hang your hat on and that you believe in, but certainly we're looking to expand some of the things that we've done here and put our players in the best position.
Jim and then Matt.
Nick, getting through last year with COVID and had to get all through that now, and you have the addition of Delon and Stephen Carr to the running backs room, in addition to a great running backs room, and the addition of the year of your experience. All of that in totality, how much does that give you this year in going into your offensive scheme?
Super excited about that room. Very excited about Deland. It's been phenomenal. No surprise to anybody here or anybody that knows him. Exceptional coach, wonderful person, great family. I mean, I can't say enough good things about him as a coach and as a person. He's brought a ton of knowledge, a ton of wisdom, a ton of insight into different ways to look at it or do it, and has been a phenomenal addition to the staff. And then relative to the kids in the room, I mean, we're thrilled. We think we have a strong running back room, and we're looking to utilize those guys in a lot of different roles. Some of that will be determined early in camp, seeing those guys, just talk about Steven, seeing him out there on the grass for the first time live. Obviously, Deland has had experience with him in the past, but for us and our team and our unit, getting a chance to get our hands on him and see him practice, early in camp will be important to see what his role looks like and what are the things that he does well and things that we can feature. So I'm extremely excited. There's other guys in that room, David Ellis, Samson James, Tim Baldwin. You got some young players in that room, a couple freshmen that we're excited about. Charlie Spiegel, Davion Irvin, Poindexter, Chris Childer. I mean, all those guys have done a nice job. And so we got to find out what the combination of those guys looks like, what the rotation looks like, and those guys ultimately will decide that by how they play in practice.
Matt and Kevin?
Coach, obviously you got a newcomer quarterback in Donovan. You guys recruited him hard, offered him early. What'd you see when you watched him in high school? And I guess just how excited, what kind of skill set does he bring? How excited are you to get to work with him and just kind of see him out there on the field live and, in front of your own eyes?
I'm really excited. I think the thing that I've been most impressed with Donovan is just his presence. He is a big kid. We hadn't seen him in a long time, since I think the last time we saw him was maybe the winter of his junior year. Watched him play in a basketball game. So he's a physically impressive kid. He has good presence. He has just a good way about him. I think he's gotten more and more comfortable throughout the summer, just acclimating to the team. I think he's got good leadership qualities. We got to teach him the system. Got to put him in positions to be successful. Same thing with a lot of young players. You're trying to find out what they do best. Comes from a program where the coaches have done a great job of pushing him to be better. He obviously had success there when he was there. So we're thrilled about him, excited about him, and looking forward to getting him out there on practice.
Kevin and Dylan?
Yeah, Coach. DJ already had the spring, and it seemed like he adapted quickly. And now you're adding Cameron Buckley, and you mentioned Stephen Carr. Just how critical are these next 4 weeks to kind of get them all integrated into what you're doing, and what do you think the potential they can bring to the offense?
Yeah, we're excited about that room as well. I think your point is well taken. These next 10 to 14 days, just getting them acclimated to our scheme. They've had a ton of work in the summer. Obviously, we're not involved in that. Those are player ran, but certainly they have a baseline level of knowledge, of what we're trying to do. DJ was here in the spring, so there's a lot of recall. Those guys are veteran players. They understand football. They understand schemes, route distributions, route techniques, those types of things. I think the thing that we're trying to make sure is just the relationship between Mike and those guys, getting their time on task and making sure that, the work's got to be done. We got to put the work in here in the next 10 to 14 days to see who those guys are and what that rotation looks like. We got a lot of guys coming back that have had production. Obviously Ty and Miles have played good football for us. And so we got to see who are those other guys. How are they going to, earn their role? And we're excited about them. They got great attitudes. They're coached by the best wideout coach in the country. So we're excited and looking forward to it.
Dylan and Dustin?
Yeah, Coach, we've talked a lot about the running backs and the running game, but how much do you think you can use Michael in the running game, just even knowing how much keeping him healthy is important? Is that something you anticipate doing this year at all?
We always try to pick our spots with that. Just being mindful of the situation and when it's required. I think, the nature of the position, whether you're scrambling off of a pass or it's a designed quarterback run, you're going to get tackled. It's part of football. So, we don't, in our offense, we're not trying to run the quarterback between the tackles and try to, run over a 240-pound linebacker. We recruit tailbacks to do that. But there are certain times and situations where the quarterback run element is an advantage for you. You just have to be mindful of how much you want to incorporate that. And just pick your spots, because I think it is challenging for a quarterback to run the ball in between the tackles and then expect him to get up and rip a dig route on third down. It's not easy to do. So you just got to be mindful of that. You're always trying to keep the quarterback healthy. You're trying to limit the hits that they have throughout the year, but also recognize it's a contact sport and they're going to get tackled and they're going to have to avoid the rush and make plays with their legs and try to protect themselves as best they can. So it's always something that we have in our offense. It's just a matter of when we decide to use it or if we decide to use it.
Dustin and Peaks?
Just in general, what do you like about what you have up front at this point in the offensive line? You obviously have a couple guys that you've lost that have moved on. What's kind of important for you to fill in the spots? What do you like there?
I think those guys have really taken a big step forward. I'm excited about their leadership. I think they've had a phenomenal summer. I think their mindset and mentality is right where we would want it to be. And I'm looking forward to getting them out on the grass. I think, they're gonna lead the way. We have a saying around here, big men lead the way. And those guys have embraced that, and the way that they've worked throughout the summer, the way their bodies look, how strong they are. We're excited about them. And there'll be competition for the inside spots without a doubt. We got to find who the best five are. We have some guys that have had a ton of game reps and experience. We've had some guys that have had some experience, but we're going to put the best five out there, and those guys understand that. And they recognize that the whole group's going to be counted on throughout the course of a season, and so I'm excited about that group. they got the right look in their eyes and they got the right mindset and mentality. So we're looking forward to that.
Deeks and Fish?
Peyton Hendershot wasn't quite as productive as he was in 2019. Is that something you think you'll be able to change as he's in his final year?
Yeah, I think so. He's a big part of what we do here, the tight end position in general. I really, really like that room. I think the leadership and toughness that room provides, not just with Peyton, but with Matt Bjorson and A.J. Barner and some of those other guys in there. We're going to need those guys. We're going to count on them. I think what we asked them to do, we asked them to do a lot. We asked them to do a lot of different things. They have a large, a big list of skills that we asked them to do at a high level, and I think Peyton leads the way there. Certainly we expect his production to increase, but we also recognize that he did a lot of great things last year for us too. And so he's had a phenomenal offseason. He looks like $1 million. He's in the best shape of his life. I think where his mindset is and his focus and he's hungry, and his leadership and his toughness and his edge, we like that, and he brings that and provides that, and so does Matt, and so does AJ, and so does that whole room. So Kevin's done a great job developing those guys, and we expect big things out of that room. Certainly Peyton's a huge part of that.
Fish and then Count?
Nick, the quarterback room has been challenged a little bit with injuries, obviously, with Dexter Williams out with the ACL, Michael, obviously, and Jack with the separated shoulder. Has that room, or has that made it more important for McCulley to get some reps and opportunities early on just because of the limited number of snaps that a lot of these guys can take at this point?
I don't think there's any doubt about it. Donovan needs to be ready to play yesterday. We need to get him ready to go, and that's the same for all the young players. I think the nature of college football, it's just very rare that you would have 4, 5, 6 scholarship quarterbacks ready to go. It's just not normal. You're usually dealing with 3 to 4 each and every year. The health of that room matters, and the ability for each player in that room to contribute when their number's called, it certainly is a very critical factor. And so we got to get Donovan up to speed as quickly as we possibly can. And some of the other guys in that room, Grant Gremmel, Will Johnson, those guys got to be ready to go too. So your point's well taken. I think you're spot on. We have to get some of the young players in that room ready to play. And be mindful that, Mike needs the reps as well. So you got to balance that throughout camp to make sure that whole room is strong and ready to go. I feel good about the ability in that room. I feel good about the leadership and toughness. And we just got to make sure that all of the guys in the room are ready to play if their number's called.
Tom, last one for Nick.
Some sort of a multi-part quarterback question there. Are there things in the next 2 or 3 or 4 weeks that Michael cannot or will not be allowed to do?
Yeah, we're not going to tackle Mike.
Well, we knew that. Yeah. But are there other things, or is he full go otherwise? Because he mentioned at media days that maybe the live stuff he wouldn't be a part of.
Yeah, we'll be mindful of that, depending on what the drill is. We're not going to touch Michael. So if we feel like the drill is going to potentially put him in that way, we won't. We'll be smart about that. And obviously, the medical staff and Kyle and Coach Allen, they decide that, based on what the team needs. There's going to be periods where we got to tackle people. And if we feel like it's a situation where Mike doesn't need to be anywhere near that, then we'll be smart about that. But, I think anytime you're coming off of surgery and you start to get into a preseason practice, you just day to day, you're evaluating how he feels, because you go through summer conditioning, you go through summer training, and yet when you get to practice, the volume, the intensity is always higher. So you just take it day to day. But, we expect Mike to participate in everything but live tackling. We'll make sure we don't put him in a tackling drill.
And then just to follow up on that, how much does it help that Jack has so much experience that he can sort of learn from Mike's reps too?
I think Jack Tuttle is incredibly valuable to our team, not just from his ability as a player and the confidence we have in him, but in his leadership and his toughness and his work ethic and the example that he sets on a day-to-day. He's 100% bought into the team. He genuinely loves and cares about his teammates, and we have tremendous confidence if he goes in the game that we're going to execute and win. So we love Jack. We love him to death, and super confident in him.